Hey fairy friends, Matrien here, and today I'm sharing episode 1 of the Krogcast, a Faeria community collaboration hosted by Frosty Reindeer, Werfs, Scorch, and me, with hopefully many other guests still to come. You can check out the schedule over on twitch.tv/frostyreindeer. We've already received some great, helpful feedback from this fledgling episode and have plans to focus our topics and deliver some fun and interactive segments going forward. So I hope you enjoy, and until next time, take care, good luck, and have fun.
All right, welcome to the first Krogcast. I am your host, Frosty Reindeer, and I am joined today by Werfs and Matrien. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think that we are just about ready to get this show on the road. I do have a few announcements to make before we get started. I wanted to mention the seasonal cup that is happening next month, where the top 32 players from the Faeria World Circuit, point earners, are able to compete for their chance. I believe it's a prize pool, right, of $2,500? Or is it just Okay, so the prize pool of $2,500 in the seasonal cup. I believe it's the season of Kaleem, so good luck to those players. That's happening next month on the official Faeria TV channel. I also wanted to mention that there will be a card reveal in this stream, so if you're here for that, then that will be a little bit later on. But we do have a little bit of content to get through for you beautiful people watching. Drops are enabled, so make sure to do !link to link your Faeria or Abrakam account rather, and the Twitch account to start earning rewards. I believe it's 1 battle chest per hour, if I'm correct, and then there's every 30 minutes after that there's additional rewards. So make sure to do that, and also if you haven't done already, !podcast to join the official Krogcast Discord to always be notified for when we go live. And with that, I think we're actually ready to start the show. So we do have a few topics picked out for today. The first being, I figured I should mention, here's a picture of the current ladder if anyone is wondering. It's just the top 20 players right now. We see Tsunekichi at the very top, no surprise there. I believe Werfs actually had some statistics on Tsunekichi's recent tournament performance. What do you have to say about that?
So looking at recent tournament performances, Tsunekichi obviously has won the halftime, I think, and the most recent open. Now, one thing to note is that Tsunekichi on this season, I've said multiple times, Tsunekichi is currently on fire. He's just performing out of his mind. In the last open, he dropped one game, and that was in round 1 against Amoeba. And every round after that, he went 2-0, 3-0, and in the finals, he also 3-0'd. And I think there was an open, I think 2 or 3 opens ago, where Tsunekichi did not drop a single game to win the entire open. He just went completely undefeated the entire day, and like Tsunekichi right now is a monster. Like, he's just destroying the competition.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. I mean, I was fortunate enough to get to cast some of his games, and I mean, the dude's an absolute monster. You give him any deck, I mean, you give him green, yellow sack, he could bring Y-Rush into this meta and still do well. I mean, he's an absolute beast. I don't know how he does it. I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest Faeria players of all time. You know, right up there, I'd say, with like Lou and Cappuccino. Some really great talent. I think.
I mean, he still has to prove himself by winning the seasonal cup that's happening soon.
Oh, yeah.
But to be honest, I think Tsunekichi, the dude, has a pretty good chance at it. He's at the top. He's at the top of his game right now. He knows the Crucible format really well, and he knows what decks to take for lineups. So overall, this guy is just performing at his peak right now, and I think he's gonna be my pick for first place in seasonal cup.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's just performing so well. I don't really think there's anything else to say. I mean, you can just look at.
Did he win the last seasonal cup? I'm reading chat right now. I actually don't remember the last seasonal cup. It's possible I didn't check.
Well, I mean, you can just look at the points. I mean, Tsunekichi is literally 200 points above Alvar. Alvar is an absolutely amazing player, but I mean, Tsunekichi just destroyed the competition this season. There is no question that he is probably the best player in Faeria right now. I mean, you could make, some arguments from ladder rankings, but I mean, tournament-wise, he shows up, he competes, he plays well, he's fun to watch, a great player. So now I think we can move into discussing some cards. There was a recent balance patch. Some cards were changed. There was actually two balance patches. One was the big one that a lot of people are talking about, which was Firestorm, Crystal Flower, just to name a few. Some of the ones that people are really talking about. But there was kind of a little bit of a subtle change to a card that needs no introduction, Hunt Down. I believe it was Matrien that had some things to say about that. So what are your thoughts on Hunt Down right about now?
I'll actually turn it to Werfs. I had some thoughts on the more recent Twin Soul Stanu nerfs, but if we want to start with Hunt Down, I'll defer to Werfs on that one.
I'm gonna talk so much about Hunt Down. Holy crap! So Hunt Down has been one of the cards that I've kind of pivoted around, seeing that it's going to be OP. It's going to be like top tier, and obviously well, not obviously, but it did happen to end up being one of the cards that made Beast as an archetype overall very possible. And we're seeing the nerf to have an extra land essentially on Hunt Down, and pushing back the what do you say, like pushing back the turn before you get your Hunt Down, your tempo swing, your board swing. Even just by one turn is really big. This does allow your opponent to that extra collection. It allows your opponent to kind of maneuver around or set up preemptive buffs or debuffs a lot better.
Werfs, I think I got to stop you for a second, but I think you're lagging a little bit according to chat. Your voice and video is a little bit scuffed, but no, I agree. I mean, it's a very valuable card for. I actually do have some things to say about this as well. I mean, for 3 Faeria, you get global removal. I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's like unbalanced, and I think a lot of people are on the other side of the fence. They're saying, they don't like Hunt Down. They think it's too broken. They think it's too much of a utility for green. And I disagree. I think that Hunt Down is absolutely balanced right now. And here's the reason why. We look at other colors, right? We look at yellow. Yellow has Last Nightmare, Choking Sands. Very hard, definite removal, consistent removal for the most part. Blue has Frogify, Mirror Phantasm, and now Humbling Vision. And red has stuff like Flame Burst, Cypher's Wrath. So these colors have, each color has this kind of removal tool. So we look at, and then we look at green, and we're like, okay, we have Embrace, which is okay, I guess that's fine. But it doesn't have that same removal capability that the other colors have. And so that in itself kind of gives me reason to say that Hunt Down is balanced right now. It gives green that it's the green removal card, if you will. It fits into the green archetype, fits into the color, complements its playstyle really well. And I think that it was kind of necessary for Hunt Down to kind of make up for some of the speed that green loses when it's playing against faster decks like yellow, which sometimes can run copies of Nightmare, definitely run copies of Choking Sand. And blue, that is, Humbling Vision is becoming a popular choice, which is almost as good as, Frogify. There's a lot of comparisons there. You got something?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the community concerns I've felt about Hunt Down is that green is very bulky, and because of that might not need removal all the time. And one of the specific considerations about Hunt Down is that you can have a very bulky creature attack twice in one turn. You see it with Deepwood Grizzly, Verduran Force could do it, I guess. Wait, no, it's just a beast,
Force
right?
is not a beast. Yeah.
Never
beast.
mind.
The thing is,
yeah, what do you think about being able to attack twice in one turn and get that crazy value off? Because I've seen it. It's happened to me.
I think the thing about attacking twice is, like, the devs have said that they wouldn't be adding stuff like being able to hit twice on a creature by itself, but of course, Hunt Down lets a creature attack twice, and I feel like that ability to attack twice to double dip in value before you get, your creature gets removed, allows you to play around your opponent a lot better. And in a kind of unhealthy way, I feel like Beast, like green especially, doesn't need any, shouldn't have any reach. They shouldn't have any way to deal damage across the board. And having that be a possibility, especially with green and their various health buffs, it's very easy to get a whole lot of value trades out of your creatures. Like, for example, you can Ancient Boar, you value trade something, and for example, you have 1 health left and you're gonna get shakered, you can just cast Hunt Down and then value trade something up to 6 health for pretty much free. For 3 Faeria, you get to deal more damage, and you get to play around your opponent's cards a lot better. So that's why I feel like not green, like Hunt Down right now is kind of in this problem area because it allows creatures to do things. It allows the player to do things that they shouldn't be allowed to do for very little cost.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of representing one side of the fence. Like the players that think that maybe it gives a little bit too much to green, but there's also that drawback of you can only target beasts, and there really is no beast that has realistically more than what, 7 attack or like 5 attack. You look at am I wrong? Like you look at any deck and
up to 7/3.
okay, so theoretically 7 Faeria for a 9/3. Okay, yeah, you get to pretty much nuke anything on the board, in this meta, right? But
Well, I mean, in this meta, you don't want to nuke big things, right? A lot of decks are going wide. They have a lot of swarm. They have a lot of small creatures, medium-sized creatures.
true.
You don't care about nuking things as much as you get that, value, right? Your opponent plays a Triton Warrior, and then you can play a Grizzly, and then hunt down that Triton. Suddenly, you have a 5/4, and then their 4/4 with jump isn't there anymore. Suddenly, with 2 cards, you have taken complete control of one side of the board.
And yeah, and I think that I kind of defending Hunt Down a little bit more. I am hearing what you're saying though, like kind of green has a little bit too much action now, right? For what green should have, because green does have naturally bulky creatures. I mean, Verdi is a scary card, right? In Green Rush, it's terrifying. Like, what is that? A turn 3 Verdi generally, 2 forests and the double neutral. Really really hard to play around. But I think that Hunt Down is not only balanced in that, now obviously it's even more balanced. You need those 4 lands, so you can't play it right away.
Yeah.
Also, green has no mobility. I mean, there's going to be exceptions with a lot of cards that we talk about, but green has no mobility. I've casted games
No
and
playable mobility.
right,
No
right. I mean, like Grove Collar, but we don't talk about that anymore. But like, I mean, you look at green, right? And I've seen players defeat green decks by building to the other side of the board and winning.
Yeah.
Like that's how slow green plays. So giving green just an option, and you can only target a beast. You need to have those 4 lands. You need to have you should have a target for the creature. So I think that there's a lot of things to look at. I think it's worth looking at both sides. A lot of players are kind of on this, attack twice per turn, but honestly, maybe that's what green needs to stay viable today. Maybe Hunt Down is just the perfect card that could fit in a green deck to keep it alive. We look at blue green beast.
Is mono green has trouble with just putting out beasts because there are so many good blue beasts as well, Orphan Fugu and Shifting Octopus. That I feel like for mono green beasts, this might sound cynical, but I don't think mono green is going to be viable at all in the near future. I don't think just Hunt Down in mono green alone can make it a good card. The only reason Hunt Down, well, not only, but one of the reasons why Hunt Down is so powerful is because of cards like Shifting Octopus. You get that flexibility, right? You want to nuke something, you go for a 5/5 or a 7/3, and then you just smack things. Or if you want to take care of tokens and you go for a 3/7 and then you smack small guys, and then you still have a medium-sized body to work with in value trading.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, the Hunt Down is versatile if you build the deck around Hunt Down. Blue Green Beast, a lot of synergy there. A lot of possibilities for reaching out, making potentially really big creatures. I mean, you're looking at maybe Gift of the Rakoa. You got some Frog Tosser action, maybe some Battletoads. There's a lot of options when you're building blue green, and I think Hunt Down is definitely a tool that players should be kind of looking at. And I agree with you saying that maybe mono green just isn't viable right now. That sometimes will happen in card games where there is just some decks that no matter how hard you try, you just are not going to make it viable. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now for mono green. But honestly, I think Hunt Down's in a good spot. I mean, they just kind of balanced it out a little bit more. I don't think that there's going to be much more talk about that for a while. So moving on, there was a few more cards that we wanted to talk about. Hunt Down, definitely a card to look at, especially with the recent nerf. I want to talk about Firestorm.
Okay.
We all have some stuff to say about Firestorm. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the screen. I'm also going to throw up a card that was nerfed in the recent update, Crystal Flower. And I kind of want to center this discussion around not only what did the Firestorm nerf and the Crystal Flower nerf do to certain decks that they were running, what did these cards do to the meta? That's my question for you guys.
Werfs, go for it. I can only speak to what's going on at rank 10 or so.
All right, Firestorm. Okay, so immediately after we saw the Firestorm nerf and Crystal Flower change, there's been a lot of Crystal Flower change, Firestorm nerf. Wait, what am I saying? Crystal Flower nerf and Firestorm change. I can't get that right. There's been a huge rise on Swarm decks, and along with Gifted Steel, obviously red is somewhat a dying color right now. I think that the rise of more Swarm decks, more archetypes is healthy. Obviously showing that Firestorm is pretty oppressive in ways we didn't really think about. Just pushing Swarm decks all the way down. So we did see a lot of blue-yellow Swarm. A lot of players played blue-yellow Swarm at the recent Open. Istanu was perhaps one of the best cards in the game at the time, and immediately nerfed to a 5/5. And I think there's the I guess the devs are working hard to make the game more balanced, but right now I feel like Swarm is by far the best archetype to play on ladder. And tempo decks overall, I've seen a lot more yellow for whatever reason. I think because yellow has pretty new like sizable bodies to trade with tokens. You know, they're 3/6s, and then Spirit Thefts and Soul Drains are always just good. So there's been a rise of yellow, blue, yellow, and I'm pretty happy to see that Crystal Flower is completely gutted, that it's pretty much unplayable. Technically, it's still the same thing if you play Crystal Flower with Gargana, so that's food for thought if you ever want to try 10 Faeria temporary removal. But yeah, there's yellow flyers, yellow tempo, blue yellow Swarm, and I guess green blue Beast is still very, very strong. It's still played a lot, and yeah, I think that's what we see from the meta so far.
Anything you got, Matrien?
Yeah, even Crystal Flower. I love the idea of rainbow decks, but I've tried it out a few different ways, and it just hasn't stuck for me. It's not consistent enough. But I'm wondering if in the second part of Resurgence, if we're going to see, we've seen the artwork for potentially a new Ulani card, and I don't know if just one. Presumably, she's going to have a requirement of all 4 colored lands, but I don't know if one more card, or if there could be other that could make this a viable archetype.
Ulani hasn't been revealed, right? Like, not yet.
No, we've just seen the artwork for it.
Okay, cool. All right.
All right. I want to bring up two points that Matrien mentioned that I think are worth looking at. First of all, Rakoans and consistency. When you're looking at any card game, it could be Yu-Gi-Oh, it could be Magic, it could be Hearthstone. You want decks that are consistent, and whether they consistently meme, whether they consistently win, consistently lose, consistent decks are good decks, and that's just how card games work. So, and I want to mention Crystal Flower. You could throw Crystal Flower in any deck, and it would succeed. I mean, obviously better in some decks than others. Sometimes you don't want to play Crystal Flower if you're playing Reaver because you got Frogify and Phantasm. That's a given. Or Last Nightmare, you don't want to double up on the removal. But taking away that consistency and versatility of Crystal Flower, very specifically, I think has had a profound effect on the meta. And conversely with Firestorm, or similarly with Firestorm, I think that Firestorm, the way that I kind of saw the nerf was Firestorm had the entire list of cards under its thumb. Cards that if you showed somebody a deck and before the Firestorm nerf, they would laugh at your face. And now if you looked at it, if you looked at the same deck after the Firestorm nerf, they say, wow, hey, that's probably one of the top decks on the ladder right now. And so I think that just lifting the finger off of the meta that
Yeah.
Firestorm had was important for the game. People aren't going to be happy about stuff changing. That's how people act. It's a card game. Cards get changed. It's going to happen. So I think it's going to be interesting moving forward to see how players, especially tournament players, react to the meta changing, because the meta is absolutely changed. This is not a minor nerf. This is a hard nerf, a meta defining nerf, right? So moving forward into the game, in like I said, tournaments, and especially the Open, because the Open will be played on the live patch, whatever it is. So it's going to be
So there are arguments to kind of be made for Firestorm in both forms. There's one where the global Firestorm, like board-wide damage, people would say, oh, AoE is used to prevent your opponent not prevent, but to punish your opponent for trying to play more creatures when they're already winning the board. It's more of a comeback card. Some people say that board-wide AoE is very detrimental to the game. It holds a lot of decks back. There's been a lot of one-sided views. I feel like I would have to say the Firestorm change was overall, I think is healthy for the game. If you guys watch my streams from before the Firestorm nerf, a lot of times when I play Yellow Flyers, I would just ask, okay, if he has Firestorm, we just lose the game, like regardless of what we do, right? And if that is a thing where if you're playing against a color versus color matchup, a yellow versus red or whatever, and the final win or loss ends up with if he has Firestorm, I lose the game, then that's very punishing, right? It's only because yellow has so much mobility that yellow Flyers kind of made it past the Firestorm check gauntlet. But a lot of other decks don't really survive that 3 damage, and as such they get pushed into tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. And I think overall the Firestorm nerf is very, very good. It does put positioning to be more important, which is really good, and makes the game more board focused, which is definitely the right step forward. I'd like to see maybe a minor change on Firestorm. I feel like right now it's not the best. It's not exactly doing its job of being a very reliable AoE clearing tool, but I feel like it's still, I guess it's still fairly decent. People have been sleeping on the card ever since it got nerfed, but I feel like Firestorm is still very much playable.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to kind of bring up Garridan. I know it's not.
Oh my God.
I mean, if you have a deck and you are maybe possibly thinking about possibly playing red in any way, you are going to be playing Garridan. That's the state of the game right now. That's how important Firestorm was to red decks. And any deck that built 3 mountains, you play a copy of Firestorm, maybe 2, and Garridan. It's just natural. It pretty much shuts down swarm decks. If somebody was dumb enough to bring a swarm deck into the ladder, you would absolutely destroy it. Pre nerf. So now Garridan is pretty much a given. And honestly, I am very, very happy with the Firestorm nerf. I am 100% in agreement with Werfs. I mean, it was so good for the game. We've seen red and yellow and a little bit of mono green. That was literally the tournaments for the last months. That's what was topping at tournaments, and that's because Firestorm was in the game.
Yeah.
I think.
So one thing I actually want to talk about is that in a separate Discord channel, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we can play Geared Creation, right? Which is a deck focused on getting a lot of Faeria through Windfall, Failed Experiment, and what do you call it, Storm Spawn, in order to use Aurora's Creation on Geared multiple times for multiple AOEs, multiple 6/6 bodies." And one comment that I read that kind of made me feel intrigued was one comment says, "Oh, Abrakam is now making us play weird decks just to counter Swarm." But if you think about it, at the time, decks like Beastmaster Green was used to keep red combat in control, right? To make sure red combat doesn't get out of hand. So why is it that there's suddenly a janky idea from the past that has become somewhat playable suddenly so hated, right? Like it's so like the deck idea is so hated for some reason because it's quote unquote memey, but if the meme works, then it's not exactly a meme. It's more of a meta deck, and obviously people don't like that type of play style. But at the same time, you have to remember that decks were created to counter other decks for a reason, right? Just because it has a wilder win condition that requires you to play in different styles. Doesn't mean exactly it's a bad deck or it's a deck to be hated on. So I just kind of want to put that out there before you guys start hating on like archetypes overall for whatever reason.
True.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway for the Firestorm nerf is that it opened up, creativity. You can say what you want about how powerful Swarm decks are now, but I guarantee you there are players out there trying to counter it and it's just evolving the meta, in a way that we haven't seen in so long. I mean, think about how long it took. Like, what did it really take for the Firestorm nerf? Because it's been impressive for a long time before this new business model. And I feel like because they're introducing so many cards and new play styles, with the yellow 4-card thing, etc., that they really want to keep the meta fresh. Every 2 months we're getting these expansions. Well, every month we're getting content of some kind, really. And they realized, okay, now's the time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, Matrion, sorry, literally took the words straight out of my mouth. What players are feeling right now after the Firestorm nerf is called a meta shift. The feeling that winning with weird decks after cards get buffed and nerfed is called a meta shift, and then we slowly find what the new good decks are. Good decks, and the good decks might be could have been the meme decks 2 days ago before the nerf came through. So who knows? So I think that there's definitely a lot to be said about Firestorm, and I think it's definitely worth continuing the discussion. But we do have some more cards that I want to talk about. And the card is, let's get this queued up really quick. The card is this guy. Radiance, Scourge of Oversky. Now, it might not be a popular, card in a lot of meta decks right now, but there have been some pretty outspoken players on Reddit and on Discord. I do have a few captured messages that I would like to show and read off for you guys in a second. But before that, I want to open this up to Werfs and Matrion on whatever you guys think. Just give me some thoughts on this card, and we'll go from there.
Oh my god. All right, I'll start.
Yeah.
This card is the example, like the very essence of you better draw some sort of hard removal next turn, or I'm gonna bash you for 10. Or if you don't, if your creatures are not in a good position, you're not gonna reposition them next turn. You're gonna just sit there and let me take essentially 2 turns because you don't get to do anything. And I don't like that type of playstyle. I don't like cards where you throw down a card and you're like, you better have an answer to it this turn, or I win. Or if you have an answer to it, I am severely put behind, right? Cards like Magnus, Scourge Radiance, Dreamweaver, cards like those cards are type of cards that you put down on the field, and if your opponent can't deal with it that turn, you usually have enough of a board swing or a tempo to have to snowball that lead. So, for example, you put down Radiance, Scourge of the Oversky, your opponent's playing, something like green or blue, well, not blue, green or red, very hard access to removal or hard removal. Then you essentially played a 10 Faeria 10/10 that basically skips your opponent's turn because they don't get to do anything. And against yellow or blue, it's like, Frogify, Humbling Vision, Last Nightmare, cards like that. It kind of polarizes matchups a little bit more. It kind of pushes that rock paper scissors meta. Like, if you play against green, you're just like, wow, this card is going to do work. I'm going to be value trading so much out of like my opponent. Or you're playing against blue or yellow, you're just like, okay, it's a 10 Faeria 10/10. My opponent's going to spend 4 Faeria turning it into a frog, or just 6 Faeria to get rid of it entirely, and now I'm at a 4 Faeria disadvantage. So I think the design of the card is really good, but I feel like if it's any more played, it could potentially push the meta to be unhealthy. It could potentially push a more rock paper scissors approach to the ladder.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you got, Matrion?
Yeah, no, I've tried to play this a couple times in just a meme deck where I can generate 2 of these with, I think, Roy's Creation, and then like doubles turnstile them. It hasn't worked, but I've separately from that, I've heard this card. Is it played in Reaver decks where you get them down to 10 health and then? Is that right?
Sometimes. I think it's been played in a few. There's like
yeah.
I mean, having a 10/10 in a Reaver deck is always good, right?
Right.
So that, I mean, to that point, could this be slightly correlated to the Firestorm nerf bringing out more, making blue decks more powerful? You're collecting more, with like your Battletoads, your Mantas even. So it's easier to get up to that. If you're not running Bargain, it's easier to get up to that 10 Faeria. And it's only 4 Wildlands too.
Yeah.
It's a beast. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some stuff to say on both, Werfs and Matrien. For Werfs, I have, like I said, a few messages from community members on how the community has responded to this card. And let me kind of walk through what some of those thoughts were. Basically, community members, they hate losing to this card. They hate losing to this card so much that it prompts some of them to go and make very, very, very angry Reddit posts about why this card shouldn't be in the game. And rightfully so. I mean, it sucks losing to this card. It really does. But does that make it broken? Because it feels bad to lose to it. Does that make it broken? I don't think so. And I'm going to go through kind of, I want to touch on a Reddit post here, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and read the post out loud. It's on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's a very
long post.
It is a very long post. This is all about the Scourge card. I'm going to pick out the important stuff. Essentially, a God rank player got swindled out of a win while his opponent used Scourge. He makes a case that there aren't enough answers to it. Like Werfs mentioned, you have to have exact removal, especially after the Flower nerf, because this card was kind of getting popular, and then Flower got nerfed, which was removal. And then he mentions a hypothetical situation where the player starts with Scourge in hand, builds 4 special lands to face, drops Scourge, and due to the opponent's lack of resources in Faeria, Scourge immediately wins the game.
Yeah.
He also mentions that there is possibilities for removal. Unfortunately, he mentions cards like Flame Burst, Wrath, Soul Drain, Choking Sands, Flashwind, Fanatic, Shifting Tide, Tower, etc. Those were kind of his, he was trying to figure out ways to remove the card with those specific cards that I just listed. But unfortunately, he does not mention cards that are very popular right now, such as Humbling Vision, which just got a buff, Frogify, or Mirror Phantasm, 2 very popular cards in Reaver decks. He did not mention those. And I'm not trying to single this player out. I understand his frustration. We're not trying to humiliate anybody here. I just want to talk about this and why somebody would feel the need to feel like getting beat by this card is so defeating that you would go and make a post like this. Maybe it said maybe this card should be looked at. Maybe kind of balance it out so it's not a problem anymore, but it's not as popular. Kind of push it out of the public eye and kind of wait for memes to be played with it. I understand that that's not a great design philosophy, to kind of, people don't like this card, let's just nerf it and make sure no one ever talks about it again. But I think that, maybe, and then he also mentions that there is ways to change it in the same Reddit post. So I think maybe it's worth taking a look at. I know that it just really sucks. Like Matrien mentioned, the creation combo. I mean, it's very doable, especially with cards, like Spring Moki, Windfall, these cards that you can get discounted and you can get really, really big value off of it. And keep in mind that this Scourge can be discounted, unlike its Radiance Imperial Airship counterpart. It's a fixed cost instead of a fluid cost. So before we get into more discussion really quick, I do want to mention a post from S of Dawn. I'm going to go ahead and read the transcription here on my screen. S of Dawn mentions in response to the people kind of talking out about Radiance, he says that most decks can't answer the new Radiance, especially when Reaver comes down, talking specifically about Dream Reaver decks. I'm sure it requires some setup, but in my opinion, you shouldn't be punished by not having the right tools at the time. That's RNG. The new Radiance has 0 interaction with the board, and cards like that are not healthy for a card game. Can't tell you how many times I've won by just dropping Reaver, or dropping Radiance first, checking if they had any removal, and then playing a Reaver and going for the win. It requires 0 risk for me and has 0 interaction with my opponent, who either has the answer or not. Since the answer has to be very specific, I think this is a problem. And this is one player's opinion, obviously a very high-rated player's opinion, but it just he kind of showcased things that I wanted to talk about, as well. Personally, just took the words out of my mouth, and I kind of wanted to bring some eyes to this and get some different opinions on it. So is there anything else you guys want to add about that card?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the chat. Rushnagar mentioned something too about legendaries being one-ofs, and does that make it? We for a while there was a lot of controversy about Azure Skywhale.
Yeah.
You could play 3 copies of it in a deck, and the nerf to making a Moby 1 copy did a lot to free up the meta. It felt like. So this being just a one-of in your deck, I don't know. Does that mean that it could just be going through a phase right now, and we have to wait it out since everything's still so fresh and people are using new cards?
I think, like, to be fair, this card isn't necessarily broken. Like, it's a very powerful card, right? It's like saying Dreamweaver is broken. It's not necessarily a broken card. It's very powerful by itself, and always big stats against decks that don't have hard removal is just good, right? One of the biggest, I guess, effects of this card this card has would be, like, I'm reading from chat, they said demoralization, and yeah, the card was obviously designed to discourage and make your opponent demoralized, so it's kind of like a fourth wall break. It's pretty nice, lots of flavor, but at the same time, there's a certain point where you go from like design aspect to kind of making your players dislike certain things about the card because you may have thematically designed it too well. And I feel like that's kind of the issue with Radiance right now, is that it's at the heart of heart, at the soul of the card, is a 10 Faeria 10/10. It's just a big stat stick, and it forces your opponent to have removal or not. And while I don't think it's broken, and I definitely don't think it's broken, I feel like there could be some minor adjustments to make this card a little bit less punishing for players who kind of got screwed out of a win based on draw RNG, and also lessens the blow on the player that plays it in the occasion that their opponent did have the good draw to find the counter or the answer.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to kind of put this out there as well, that I personally don't see this card as broken. I think that maybe it's just a little bit overpowered, maybe a tiny bit of a power creep, with stuff like creation in the game. I understand that it's a one of, and I don't think it's a problem for the game. I don't think like it's a meta defining card, but I think that, it just keep it in the back of all of your minds. And if anyone has anything else to add, then Discord servers are always open. Just bring your thoughts in there, and maybe, if you have a compelling argument, then we'll talk about it further. But I think for now, we're about ready to start moving on to some deck lists for the week. I think that's all about all the cards that we wanted to talk about. And I think that talking about Radiance... Oh, anything else, Matrion?
Sorry, for the... I want to mention and this doesn't have to take long, the Istanu and Twin Soul Spirit nerfs that happened recently.
Yeah.
At least personally, I don't play as frequently as some of the top tier players who are on there every day at the top of the ladder, but for me, it happened really quickly. It felt like kind of a knee-jerk reaction to a lot of vocal comments on, and I've seen in Discord, on Reddit, because we went so long without new cards being introduced to the meta. Now, right as Resurgence has been happening, those nerfs, the nerf to Firestorm happened, and then Ustanu we saw in the tournament, and then Swarm decks were a thing, and it just felt like there was only 1 week or so between when that was happening, at least from my perspective. I didn't even get a chance to try out these decks before that nerf happened, so I feel like it was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and it could have been I always like to see, instead of cards that are feel oppressive at top ranks be nerfed, I like to see, well, this is tricky because you don't want too much power creep, but there are a lot of unplayed cards out there, period. I really like playing underplayed or underdog cards and making them viable. So I like seeing that one possible. And this just took me by surprise because it was so fast.
I do have a question on that, specifically for you, Matrion. Would you have liked to see it kind of settle for a while, or do you agree with the knee-jerk reaction, or do you, like, as a player, do you agree or disagree design-wise, like personally? It's opinionated.
See, that's tricky, because then for me, like I said, I didn't even get a chance to try it out. because it was only a week or two since that meta shift. But I know that they are trying with these monthly releases and their new business model. They do want to keep things fresh because for so long it was, stale, you could say. Some
That my phone just. I'm gonna just go.
So it's for me it was too quick. But I don't know. They're developers. I have a lot of respect for the decisions they're making behind the scenes and the metrics they're looking at for who's playing what. But I feel like a lot of lower tier players who aren't even God rank, this wasn't even on their radar yet. But
okay. Yeah. Well, since Matrien mentioned it, it looked like Werfs had something to say on it. He was shaking his head and making some faces, so I know that's a sign that he wants to say something.
It's Stanu and the Twin Soul change, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy, do I have a mouthful for that. All right. So first of all, on Stanu change, we'll talk about the Stanu change because that one's kind of the biggest thing I want to touch upon is the 5/5 stat change. It's been changed from a 6/6 into a 5/5, as many of you know. So on paper, it looks like it's just straight up nerf, and it potentially is. But a 5/5 body is also, it kind of helps with triggering Istanu for the future. Like it makes, how do I say it? Like you can trade into smaller creatures and still have that Istanu train going. When you trade your Istanu into something and then your Battletoads become Stanu, and then you trade that one into something else, and then your Flight of the Mantas becomes one, stuff like that. So having a 5/5 Istanu kind of makes the Istanu train go off a little bit easier, but at the same time, it's -1/-1 and 1 on every future incarnation of Istanu. And there is a kind of how do you say it, like interaction change with Shozen. Shozen is a 6/6, Istanu is a 5/5 now, so possibly you could use Shozen to take care of your opponent's Istanu now, and actually take control of it while having a 6/1. So that's kind of an interaction change I guess I want to let people know of and kind of keep their eyes out for, because if Istanu is still played, you just slap in a Shozen and then that's a direct counter, and everything just becomes really awkward for the person who plays Istanu. Now, talking about the Twin Soul nerf, I do agree with Matrien. I feel like it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction, but at the same time, I feel like despite being 6 lands, for Faeria, for 8/6 worth of stats in a meta where Firestorm is no longer board wide, I feel like the knee-jerk reaction to 5 Faeria might be a little bit expensive, but I feel like having 5 Faeria 8/6 in colors known to not have a whole lot of stats, blue and yellow, I feel like that might be actually kind of good. It might be, it fits the color identities more. Like blue and yellow aren't exactly known to have big creatures, so having the nerf to 5 Faeria kind of brings the what do you call it, the top deck potential of the card in a little bit, makes sure you can +1 into Twin Soul from an empty board with an empty hand, and as well as it kind of brings it more in line with the color flavors, which also I feel like is something to keep in mind when designing and changing cards, is to make sure you're changing cards to fit the color identity of the colors instead of just focusing on the numbers and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about those two.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't really plan anything to say, but I personally hate playing against blue yellow, which is weird because I'm sure that you could go back and maybe even find some clips of me saying on my streams, like, people ask me, do you want to play blue yellow? Do you want to play something different? And I'm like, blue yellow right now isn't really that great. And I'm like trying to explain a 4/3 that can just get killed with Firestorm and just adds value, and all the Flight of the Mantas just get Firestormed, and Battletoads get Firestormed, and now it seemed, as in what you guys are talking about with knee-jerk reaction, it seemed like just as the Firestorm nerf came through, just as Istanu was starting to kind of gain that playability that it has been longing for forever. Like blue yellow has almost, I cannot remember a time where blue yellow was extremely popular. It's been here. It's been
kind of a meme, to be honest.
Toe Ship,
Yeah.
Flight of the Mantas. It's doable. Not pretty, but it's doable. But now, just when it starts to be played, Firestorm gets nerfed. Blue Yellow's looking up. We got a whole bunch of Fun Swarm decks. Bang, Astana nerf comes down. Bang, Twin Soul nerf comes down. They just killed it before it even had like this chance to to really shine.
Yeah.
And
about like 2 weeks worth of time, but it was enough for people to play it.
Right.
Yeah. And stuff.
And I mean, and I think that it's still kind of a viable deck. I mean, they didn't change the effects, or they didn't change the effects. Rather, they changed a little bit of stats and cost. We'll see how that kind of factors into how popular it becomes in the next few weeks, because those stat changes did come through pretty recently. And I mean, it's just another Swarm deck. Toe Ship is still very strong, very, very strong turn 2 play. Probably one of the strongest turn 2 plays in the game right now is Toe Ship. Into double collection, into the wells, getting aggressive lands for Mystic Beasts. I mean, even I don't know about if you think about Axe Grinders, but just aggressive lands in general. It's definitely one of the best turn 2 cards in the game right now. But I think that's all I got to say about that. If you guys have anything else, feel free to add.
Just reading chat. Chiholic says, to be honest, did you guys face Blue Yellow Swarm in ladder? I have never seen even one time. I didn't play a lot against Blue Yellow Swarm, but I played a lot of Blue Yellow Swarm. So technically, for other people, I am that person that played Blue Yellow Swarm on ladder.
We know Werfs. We know that Werfs secretly plays Green Rush, but he doesn't tell anyone about it. At least when it was good. So I think moving on, it's going to be interesting to see how Blue Yellow kind of turns out, because now that people know about it, it's going to be interesting for sure. I'm definitely looking forward to even playing it myself a little bit. I've never really played Blue Yellow, but we'll see how that goes. So I do kind of want to segue into kind of backtrack a little bit. We were talking about Radiance, the Scourge of Oversky, and I kind of want to highlight a deck that the host kind of agreed on showing and talking about. It's the deck that SF Dawn showed at the recent Open, the Claim Open number 5, which is available to watch. If you haven't seen the game SF Dawn versus Tsunakichi, definitely go watch that. It's on my YouTube channel, !YouTube. Go watch that and come back here and watch this portion of it, because there is some fun stuff to talk about. I think I just kind of want to open this up with why is this deck good right now? That's kind of what I want to prompt you guys with. Why is this deck good? How did SF Dawn get all the way as far as he did in the tournament? I'm not going to spoil it, but how did he do it with this deck?
Because blue is great right now.
I guess so.
Blue is just Humbling Vision buff. Cards like Dreamweaver, decks like Dreamweaver have always been viable. It's been viable since, not even viable, it's been one of the top tier decks since, it's been like a month or two. So I think blue right now is really taking advantage of the more swarmy meta. They have more tools within like their own color, like Mirror Phantasm, Sturdy Shell with Enchantment, Aurora to kind of help with the tokens, as well as Aurora's Trick being able to take possible key units at the right time. Blue is pretty well suited to deal with Swarm by having counter Swarm that can potentially be bigger bodies to value trade with. But overall, I just feel like Reaver's always been at a good spot, and another 10/10 definitely helps the possible OTK setup potential of putting down the 10/10 and then next thing you just Reaver and then just knock him dead.
All right, what do you think, Matrien? Any thoughts?
Yeah, this is hard for me because I'm not up there at the top tier, but it's just seeing that it's mono blue with some wild cards sprinkled in. I mean, with mono colored decks, especially control-y, high land requirement decks, I mean, you know what you're doing. Your opponent knows what you're up to too, but you have such force behind you with some of these powerhouses that it's, if you know how to play it, you're just building up one side.
I think that there is one card that people have been mentioning since the start that I've been reading chat and people have been bringing up since the start of the stream, and that card is Humbling Vision. Now, we haven't really talked about that, card behind the scenes, but man, there is so much to say about this card. I mean, it literally took blue and put it on its back and said, you know what? Like, just they changed one word. They changed one word in Humbling Vision, and it changed the way that people play blue. It's insane. It's insane. I don't have any words for it. I mean, it rounds down. It can fully clear cards that that you can't value trade into. It can cut the Scourge in half. It can cut anything in half that it wants, whenever, for 3 Faeria. It's such a great card.
If you think about it, one of the more prevalent cards in the game has been Shifting Octopus, which is often played as a 3/5 jump. So with Old Humbling Vision, you trade 3 Faeria, and your opponent still has a 2/3 jump. But with a new change, your opponent has a 1/2, right? So for that one change, that doesn't change.
Example,
yeah, there's no change in Faeria cost, land cost, or anything. But effectively, for cards like, against cards like Shifting Octopus, you're getting a free -1/-1 by playing, Humbling Vision, right? Along with just overall more value trading possibilities. Queen's Guard becomes a 1/3 instead of a 2/3, and that changes the way in which, if you have Battletoads ready, you don't need to trade both Battletoads, and you get two 2/1s, right? And two 2/1s to keep defending against Rush for 1 card is pretty solid. It's definitely a very strong change, especially against creatures with obviously odd numbered stats. Very powerful card since now it rounds down.
Yeah. Everything Werf said, absolutely. I don't think it was the exact phrasing, just changing one word. It previously rounded up, and now it rounds down. And so 1 technically rounds down to 0. I mean, I'm no math major, but that just doesn't make sense to me. One definitely does not equal 0, but it's interesting.
Divided by half and round down.
Exactly. Yeah, it still rounds up to 1, but I think, and I also want to kind of highlight that I was trying to go through and make a generic blue Reaver list, but they're all so different, and you can play Reaver in so many different ways. You can play with blue 7s, a little bit sketchy. You can play it like in the mono blue, probably not blue jump, and like S of Dawn did here, very very beautifully. Played it with Library. Did he play Library?
Library.
Okay. Obviously through
Library.
Okay.
Is crazy, bro.
I was looking at. I was like, did he play Library? Of course he did Library. But yeah, there's so many variations of it. It's hard to pinpoint one Reaver deck, and what makes it good. But this is kind of what we found. A lot of these cards are kind of tournament specific. Werfs and I were talking about how generally you probably don't want to take any copies of Aurora's Trick into the ladder when you could be playing maybe another Phantasm, maybe a Fugaro.
You already play Fugaro.
Oh, he already does?
I'm thinking more like
okay.
Toad, Ninja Toad.
Yeah, sorry, Ninja Toad. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yeah, Ninja Toad
used to be played along with Reaver, but recently not so much.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a deck to look at. I know there's some very prominent players that in the community that really enjoy control decks. I'm not calling myself a prominent player by any means, but I really, really do enjoy slow control decks. So this is right up my alley. It's very easy to pilot and very enjoyable to play. It's not too cheesy. I mean, yeah, you got the tricks, you Phantasm Enchantment, a few tricks up your sleeve, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you see your opponent at 7 lakes, Reaver's coming down. You just kind of have to play around it. It's not gimmicky. The libraries kind of help with that. Keeping yourself up to speed with other color decks. But that's definitely a deck to watch out for. Is a Blue Reaver for sure. That's what we kind of decided on to kind of showcase. Additionally, the Swarm deck. We wanted to kind of put a blanket deck for Swarm decks. There's tons of Swarm decks out there.
Only funny thing is when we were talking about it in pre-production, we're like, yo, there's gonna be Swarm deck, so let's showcase a Swarm deck. I built the Swarm deck, I sent the screenshot, and immediately afterwards the meta's full of yellow and blue, and it's just kind of awkward because
I mean, yeah, I think one of the most prominent ones now is like blue-green swarm. You can take it so many ways. You can, gift to the Rakoa. I don't know about green-red swarm, but just swarm in general. Anything that you could play gift to the Rakoa, or even though that technically got nerfed, technically. Yeah, technically. One more land is a nerf, but yeah, you could take Swarm so many different ways, and that is just, there's nothing else to talk about Swarm except for Swarm is good now because Firestorm got nerfed. That's all there is to it. I mean, Swarm was okay. Blue-green was playable before Firestorm, but now it's just, or just Swarm is just absolutely taking over.
Yeah.
So I think we can kind of move on to a deck.
Underrated.
Yeah, well, anything that I make is underrated. So yes, this is the segment of underrated stuff. This is a deck that I've been enjoying personally. I just took it from my decks. I was playing it on stream a little bit. I had the help of Superb Blizzard to kind of craft this masterpiece of.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know. It works. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it came to be, but it works.
Mythics.
All those mythics, yeah, definitely not a budget deck.
How do you have all those mythics but not mythic ancient heroes, man? How
How
does that even work?
I forgot about that one. There's not really much to say. I mean, Cannon Carrier, we thought it was a meme, but it was suggested by a Superb Blizzard. We just threw the Copters in there, threw the Garridan in there, and this is kind of like the other side of Mono Blue right now. Not mono blue, but the other side of blue with like blue jump, if you will, kind of it doesn't have the Triton Warriors, but you just throw a bunch of blue creatures in there, throw Windfalls in there, and you're good to go. Definitely a meme deck, I would say. Definitely a highlighted meme deck of the week. Cool. But, I mean, I enjoy it, and if anyone else would care to try it, there's Radiance, the Scourge at the top, and Garridan is the bottom card, so if you want to try it, then that's fine. But if you don't, then that's obviously fine as well.
You should try it. It looks fun.
I
might play later.
It seems it's a little bit gimmicky, but it seems it's pretty consistent for how I've been playing it. Cannon Carrier is a great surprise and fits really well with Herald and or synergizes with Herald, Mochi as well as Archon.
Mochi.
Yeah, Mochi.
Yeah, I would know. I watch a lot of anime. I know
Anime.
it's
Of course.
All right.
So, with that, I believe that Matrien has a little bit of lore before we hop into our little 5-minute intermission.
Now I would not. Oh, I would not presume to write any lore on this card. I want to respect the developers doing that, but I do have a poem I wrote to honor this card. It's a bit of a teaser.
I thought it was a rap.
The rap is for the Krogcast intro, so stay tuned for that.
Oh,
okay.
All
right. This is for the card reveal. Wait, are we doing this before the break or after?
Yeah, we're gonna tease him and then let him run with it.
All right. Then get ready. All right, here we go. I've been practicing all day, but now I'm nervous. All right. What dwells beyond the mirror's light? One touched by azure tendrils bright. As shadows seep and stats reverse, is this a boon or ancient curse? The answers lie in how you play when darkness joins the light of day.
Wow. Mysterious.
Mysterious.
And with that, we are going to go ahead and hop into a little bit of like a 3 or 4 minute intermission, and we will come back and reveal the new card. We'll be right back.
All right, so stick around, guys. A few minutes. Great card. It's so broken. You guys just hang on tight.
All right, we are back, and we do have a juicy card reveal for you guys, courtesy of the one and only Atmaz. Thank you very much, Atmaz, for giving us the chance to reveal this card to the community. It will be posted in the Krogcast Discord after the show is over. So here's the card in 3, 2, 1, bang! Looking Glass Phantasm. The gift is transform a creature into a 5/3. I don't know how to say that, but if you look,
it's Looking Glass Phantom spelled backwards, but it's you pronounce it more like Masatata Sagala, and I don't know why Abrakam did this, but
Wait, you said that way too fast. You've been practicing this.
no.
he tried it. He almost had it. He almost had it.
Masatna Perk Saug Glikul.
All right.
Nikul.
It's cute. It's cute, but I think we got to come up with a name for this thing for when we're casting tournaments and stuff, you know?
We'll just call it Masatna Glass Gnikul. Easy.
There you go. There you go. I like that. We'll just it's just easy. It's not, it's just one word, and we'll yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm so excited for new blue cards. I've loved playing blue since it first came out, so anything.
This card's broken, by the way.
You think so? I think that Mirror Phantasm kind of outclasses it. Do you think?
No, definitely not.
Definitely
dude.
not. Okay.
Let me tell you about. Okay.
Let's talk about it.
You pay 2 less Fury, but you do have 2 more lands, obviously. Number 1, but the 3/5 body, like 3/5, is really really good. You set up a nice collector, but if you think about it in, I guess, multicolored decks, you can connect Looking Glass Phantasm with cards like Flame Burst or Firestorm or Gyarados if you have enough Faeria to basically permanently remove it. It's kind of like Frogify, but stuck on a more expensive body. But at the same time, you can use this to. It's almost like Aurora effect, right? You have your Battletoads 2/2s, and for 5 Faeria, instead of a. Okay, so for 5 Faeria 3/5, you get to turn a 2/2 into a 5/3, right? Aurora is 4 Faeria 1/1, and for 1 land less. Now the thing is that this is more token support. Basically, it basically helps blue with more tokens. I feel like in testing, I've been running this card along with some red cards and yellow cards as well, just testing out which one's better. Flame Burst, Wind Soldier, the likes, and Looking Glass Phantasm seems to currently be very very strong. It's like one of the contenders for possibly one of the more, like, I wouldn't say meta defining, but one of the most archetype supporting cards ever. And reading chat right now, Bobbin says, wow, tokens really needed support. Thanks, Abrakam, in a sarcastic tone. Okay. Yeah, it's token support, but at the same time, you do transform another creature into a weaker body. Now, the thing is, you don't always have to transform your own creature, right? It's not just token support. It's also a way to possibly debuff your opponent's stuff, right?
Yeah, see, I never even considered that. That's why you're God rank Werfs.
So, like, for example, they play something like Ground Shaker, right? You have 3 damage in hand. I don't know how you have 3 damage in hand playing as blue, but let's just say, for example, that you do. You effectively turn your opponent's creatures, big guys, into more easily removed smaller guys. And if that's not possible, then you just turn one of your small guys into a medium-sized guy. So on by numbers, this card is not broken, but the flexibility this card allows is what makes this card very very scary. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that you can pull off with this card, and the flexibility is, I'd say the flexibility is almost at the same level with Emperor's Command, which is why what do you call it, this card is so powerful. Also, Parashar, I'm gonna call you out. You said there aren't any blue cards that deal 3 damage. Well, guess what? Ninja Toad does 3 damage. It's a 4/3/2 haste. You tell me it doesn't do damage. It's got haste. God.
So I do kind of want to take this time to open up the show to the viewers. Before that, I do want to make sure to shout out Matrien's channel for a few reasons. The first reason being that the VODs will be uploaded there. It's !Matrien in chat. That's where, if you're weren't able to make it here, or you missed the card reveal, you can go back and watch that. Also, he does have some awesome lore. We actually do have a screenshot of it right here. Let me just get this up there. This is Matrien's new video with guest starring David, who I know is a community member that a lot of people have taken a liking to. So definitely go check that out. Same place.
Starring David. This is part 2 of a Faeria Choose Your Own Adventure series I'm doing. If part 1 was maybe a month ago, and at the end there was a very difficult choice for our hero Kaleem. He had to choose between Shara, going after Shara, or going after Runin. He needed to seek an ally. I won't spoil it too much, but this chapter he's seeking Shara in the jungle ruins of Maris. And there is another choose your own adventure question at the end, so be sure to check out the whole thing so that you have the context for making this decision and determining the fate of Kaleem and the world of Faeria.
Awesome.
Hope you enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely go check him out. That is the official YouTube channel of the Krogcast as well. So go show him some love. And now, after that's out of the way, this is kind of the time that we've set aside for chat questions. In the future, there is a questions and answers or a Q&A channel in the Krogcast Discord. That's where we're going to be picking questions from in the future. It usually won't be through chat. So that's going to be, if you have questions that you want us to talk about, definitely go ahead and head over there to ask them. But for right now, we're just going to be looking at chat. And I think that at the end, we'll show a few memes that we found during the week that we thought were funny. I don't know if you guys
number one thing I want to talk about that the chat is also saying, I've been seeing that this thing in chat all day. No, not all day, but the entire podcast. Toss or nerf, frog toss or nerf.
Do we have confirmation?
No. I'm not saying people want frog toss or nerf, but I'm asking if you guys were in charge of nerfing frog tosser, how would you guys nerf frog tosser?
We have a whole bunch of Abrakam employees in chat. About 39 of them. So let's see what these design geniuses have to say about nerfing frog tosser.
Turn frog tosser into a 1-1.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. While people are thinking, I wonder, do you so that it can't reach across the board? Maybe you limit. It can only toss a couple spaces.
I don't know how that would. Would it be like an AoE toss? It can only,
Yeah, I guess it's like when you summon the frog tosser, maybe the area circle from what would appear if you hovered over a jump creature would appear, and then you target one within that area, kind of like Firestorm right now. Like you just play the card somewhere, the little AoE circle range. Yeah, that could be a change, but that just adds all sorts of needless complications to the game.
We have Rushnagar said Frog Tosser escapes the battlefield after its gift. Is he trying to tell me that he wants to see Frog Tosser jump back into your hand after he's fought the creature?
No, I think
die. Or am I dumb?
Just fights the creature and then it dies. Basically, it's a 5 Faeria with deal 4, summon a 2/2.
So a 5 Faeria deep with soccer for 3 times as many lands.
Yeah, with a 2/2.
For 2 more attack with a 2/2, yeah, sure, but okay.
So let's see.
I don't know. Who would win in a fashion show, Helios or Loki? Well, Dan Felder, I don't really know them, but I think that maybe some pictures would be necessary of some awesome fashion.
Helios wins by default because of his hair, but that's just my 2 cents.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not. Is that technically fashion, or is that more of a style?
Hair is technically fashion.
Hair is fashion
because my hair is beautiful.
Oh, my hair, dude. My hair is long. My hair is probably a foot, past my shoulders. But
all right, we got a more. We got another question. Who is the coolest Faeria character?
Card
coolest by your definition. Bobbin says Krog.
Wait, is it a card or is it like a character?
Oh, it's just character.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Werfs. What do you got? Or do you need some time to think on this? I know
I'm thinking. I'm replying some answers in chat because we're skipping a few questions. Anyways.
Oh, are we? My bad.
Yeah, there's one guy who was asking about the same schedule, but I did answer. Anyways, let's see. My favorite character in Faeria. Oh, that's so hard to think.
I like Runin.
I need more time.
Okay, I'll go. I like
Alright.
I like Runen. I think when I first started playing the game, when I was still a noob, not that I'm any better now, but when I was still learning the game, I really liked Runen. That was pre-nerf Runen. Definitely my favorite character. Reading all, getting the lore page for her was really exciting, and lore-wise, she seemed. I always liked, her servants, kept burying her even after she asked them not to. I think that was along the lines of the lore. I always thought that was really funny, and how she, was able to come back. And you could say I was abusing Runen as a new player, but that was just personal lore and stuff. So anything you got, Werfs?
I mean, if we're talking about lore, I'm gonna have to say Cypher, because on the loading screen at one, if we're talking about like little tidbits of like funny humor, on this loading screen sometimes it says Cypher and the Sun once had a steering contest and history does not record the winner, and I feel like that a little like flavor and the kind of dumb irony involved makes me feel like Cypher's kind of one of those like those warlords that are unwilling to back down, and I feel like that
Absolutely.
stubbornness is pretty funny. And yeah, I guess if we're talking about lore wise, I'd say Cypher is probably one of my favorite characters.
I
Well,
want to.
and
Oh, sorry. No, yeah, that's all you, Matrin.
no, what's also great about Cypher's lore is that he has a pet ferret named Death Spark.
Exactly.
Oh my
Loki,
God.
I know
Like,
you're watching. Let's get on that. We got a
Cypher-
unique legendary next expansion. Death
I'm
Spark the ferret. All right.
I'm
He's an
99%
animal lover.
sure. I'm 99% sure Cypher's just going through his like weird teenage like warmongering phase, but he never really grew
Yep.
out of it. And then now
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cypher's a vegan at heart and he's a peace-loving guy.
Yeah.
But the blood singers maybe they I don't know,
a little bit
they're
overzealous.
trying to add they're put him in this role and he really doesn't want it. He just wants to play in the fields with his ferret. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe we got a lore video coming up.
we
Maybe.
need a
Cypher and
Death
Death
Spark
Spark.
card. Now that I think about it, I want a Death
Oh.
Spark card.
Okay. There is one question that I want to highlight as well. What is the cutest fairy character? Outland Ranger, Iona, Unlikely Hero, or Baby Yak? I already have an answer to this. Absolutely. Do you guys?
Cutest?
The cutest.
How if you don't say
Cutest.
Baby Yak, I hate you.
Okay, cutest. Okay, let's talk about like human card designs. Like
Cutest.
I think it's like waifu is the political correct term. I think is that what they were asking, or is that not what you were asking? I think we're talking about cutest card art. I'd have to say Baby Yak as well, or is it Unlikely Hero? No, Prairie Yak.
Unlikely Hero.
I like the Yak
He's
and
cute,
Unlikely
yeah.
Hero.
Prairie Yak. For me personally, it's just so fluffy.
Have you guys seen the person in like Unlikely Hero? That little girl is like 2 inches tall. Yaks are not that big. If she's like 1/3 of the size of that yak, she's like 1 foot tall, dude. You ain't getting none of that sugar if she's 1 foot tall.
Yeah, I think I totally butchered what Rushnagar was trying to say 100%. So I apologize about that. He was asking about the cutest card art, not the
Oh yeah.
human character that we like to look at.
Yeah, come on,
That's
guys.
not that was my bad. I
Cutest
misspoke. But it's Laya, by the way. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about that.
I have to say Sky Yak would be the cutest card design of all time. Well, not the card design, I mean card art. I think Sky Yak is like my top 10 for sure, like 100%. Dan Felder says Yulani brings in the furries.
Wait, what?
Why? Why did I read that out loud?
Werfs can't do that.
Why did I read that out loud?
Oh no. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, cute.
All right, we
cute
need a
cards,
new question
Yeah,
here.
we need new questions. Cute cards are great, but they can only get you so far.
Oh my god.
Okay, so in the
Yulani's a
meantime,
furry.
while
Okay.
while you guys figure out what you guys want to ask, we do have some memes. We have a little situation with Atmas and another person. He says, "I'm slightly sad that you cannot use a card effect to trigger corruption. Roleplay wise, it's even worse because I was just imagining an Origin. That's not how you say
Origin.
that. Origin
Origin.
fanatic kicking a Hydra and shouting, 'Get corrupted, yo!'"
And this is canon, so that's happened before. That has happened in the Faeria universe at one point. A fanatic kicked a Hydra and be like, "Spawn your heads, you idiot!"
I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny. It was definitely great for Matt Miz to be there. But we have a question: coolest card art. I don't know what you mean by coolest. Like I don't know how to define that term. I mean, Werfs mentioned Cipher.
Coolest card art. Oh.
Oh no. Wait, card art or like card effect?
Card art.
Okay.
The coolest? Like the most edgy. Dude, I gotta say Zealous Crusader, dude. Zealous Crusader's
think?
card art is like I played the
Oh,
game
yeah.
since, I guess like free open weekend, like two and a half, 3 years ago. And the placeholder art for Zealous Crusader was really ugly. And they revealed the actual art for Zealous Crusader, and that card art has been kind of ingrained in my mind since the reveal. Like I just looked at it, I'm just like, holy crap, this card is so like cool. Like the card art, you just see I mean, in terms of color composition, there's like the orange, like yellowish deserty theme, and the Zealous Crusader's just holding this bright blue blade like he's about to cut through you, and he's in the middle of action like he's leaping towards you. I don't approve of Yellow Rush gameplay, but I'm gonna be honest, Zealous Crusader's card art is by far like my favorite card art of all time.
We actually have a command in this chat already for Yellow Rush. If you type !Y Rush, you'll be greeted with a friendly face. While you guys do that, there's another good question from Rush Nagar. I want to direct this one towards Matrion. I don't know if you see it. It's if we had a hypothetical PvP match between a few Faeria factions, which factions would you pick? He says, I predict a lot of people would be going with Rakons or Maribel. I don't really understand like the lore of those two, but
factions.
Yeah.
A PvP. Wait, PvP or PvE?
PvP.
PvP.
All right, PvP. You have factions. Like right now, we have subtypes, sure, but if there were factions, I really want to see the rebels built out more and see them more viable. They're in neutral. You never really see them much splashed into many decks. I'd like to see them built out, especially with all this chaos going on with the Empire. Who knows what's going to happen for part 2 of Resurgence. But I feel like they could have really played a part in this Fall of Everlife Resurgence series. Since this is an opportunity to fight back, I'd like to see them. That's off the top of my head. Yeah, how about you guys or chat?
I don't really know much about. If we're talking about like theoretical PvP, I mean, I don't know. We don't really have that many like factions. I'd throw like beasts and tritons and just see who won. I don't know. I think that's what you guys were asking. But
okay. Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Dan Felder in chat said Origin, right? And I was literally gonna say that. I was gonna say Origin, either the Origin or the Shaitans, not because of the lore or anything, but because the latter has proven me over and over that people don't know how to play against Yellow Rush. So why not just bring the most uncounterable tribe to the fight? No one knows how to play against it, so just use that. It's easy. It's 200 IQ. It's 200 IQ outplay.
Wait, are we talking about gameplay or are we talking about like lore? Because I think that we're crossing some lines here. So some fourth walls are being broken.
While you're on the topic of Origin, I want to call something out about the lore that not many people know is that the concept of Yellow Rush is actually based on the fact that correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, that the Origin don't like how the Mirnest Empire is using Faeria as fuel. They want to conserve it, find a balance with nature. So they intentionally rush down their opponents before they can start using Faeria. So they're conservative in their own Faeria use, and they don't believe in the technology that Faeria has created.
Huh.
I think I got that right.
Yeah, I think
so.
That's
the concept of Yellow Rush.
That's why they have stuff like Prayer and Soul Pact, like
Right.
Furia generating cards, because they don't want to deplete the wells. They want to find ways to generate their own power.
Yeah, so I love that is that's a premise for a deck. I'd love to hear if there are other reasons behind other archetypes.
Wait, people still play Prayer? Or is that just a lore card now? I wasn't aware.
Prayer in Yellow Rush, man. I don't know, man.
New Prayer.
What?
New Prayer. That's what I was saying. Well, all right. We are going to be wrapping the show up soon. I do have a few more little funny memes that I want to throw out there before we end. I do have a few announcements for the last minute or two. It shouldn't take that long. But here we go. We have a great meme from Werfs personal Discord with a nice little interaction with Summer Flame, Werfs, and I. I don't know what happened. I don't think Summer did either, but if you just want to go ahead and read through that, there was this little interaction.
Yeah, I programmed the bot to respond to that because it's I find it funny when people say no you, and then I forgot about that, and then I did it, and I fell into my own trap. So that's always fun.
Oof. That's all we gotta say is just oof. So Werfs is.
Oh wait, Xkid, what was your question? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I don't.
He says we ignored all his questions.
Wait.
What is the most underrated, underplayed Faeria archetype? Underrated.
Neutral Rush.
Neutral Rush.
Yeah, if you guys haven't, speaking of that, I got a video recent. I'm having great luck with it. It's hit or miss. It's high risk, high reward, but Imperial Outpost has been such a boon for all neutral creatures. So give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know.
And also, let's see. Xshed also asked, what is your favorite Faeria caster? Who is your favorite Faeria cast? Who's your favorite caster?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Werfs, Kappa Pride. I don't really know. I mean, maybe Atmez. I like his voice. It's kind of deep and sensual, but I don't know.
His voice is like, whew.
I'm gonna play nice guy and say I love everybody who casts this game because our community's so tight knit, and it's great to get anybody doing it really. But I do when I was starting, I would catch Scorch. Has been so consistent. I cast with him once, and he was just on fire the whole time, and I was just puttering out over the hours. And I mean Aqua too, back in the early days. Yeah.
Well, I think that that's just about it. I do want to say a few things to wrap up here. I do want to mention again that the VOD is going to be uploaded on Matrien's channel, !Matrien. There, if you scroll down on my Twitch page, there should be a little box with my commands, and then there should be a little box with the Krogcast. You can do that at any time when I'm offline. Just come in here, type the chat, or type the command, and it'll give you a link right to it. I think that that's it. Make sure to watch the Hex Templar League this Saturday. I will be casting with Werfs. I'm not sure when that starts. Werfs, do you have a time on that?
On what, the Hex Templar?
Yeah, this Saturday.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. EST. All right.
Yeah.
We are going to be doing the show bi-weekly, which is once every 2 weeks. So the next show will be 2 weeks from now. I think that we're planning on extending it to 2 hours, just to kind of cover 2 weeks worth of cards, and cards, decks, strategies, events. That's definitely going to be a possibility, but make sure it's going to start at the same time. So 2 weeks from now, 9 o'clock. Be here or be there. Be square. And finally, I wanted to. I wanted to.
I was gonna be sassy.
Oh no, you're fine. I wanted to shout out everybody that showed up today. Everyone that joined the Discord, I greatly appreciate it. I do want to mention that we're all the casters put in equal work, kind of setting this up. I know that there was something called the Kappa Council in the past, which was a similar podcast. So I watched a few episodes of that and was really hooked. I really wanted to bring it back. So I hope that you guys did enjoy that. We all three of us work together, as well as Scorch. A little bit of work in the background. He's going to be helping out a little bit more as well, so keep an eye out for him. And yeah, like Matrien said, it's great to be a part of a community that's really tightly knit like this, and I'm grateful that I had the chance to kind of reach out and start something special, hopefully that's going to last for a long time. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Werfs, Matrien, Atmiz, and everyone that's kind of helped build the Faeria community, and even Aquablade and all the other content creators. It's greatly appreciated. So I think that's everything that we have tonight, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace.
2 weeks. Bye guys.
Take care.